Sarah had always been a city girl, thriving on the hustle and bustle of urban life. But after a particularly grueling year, she found herself yearning for a quieter, simpler existence. When she stumbled upon a picturesque cottage in a small countryside village, it seemed like the perfect escape. The villagers were welcoming, and the surrounding landscape, with its rolling hills and dense forests, was breathtaking. Yet, there was one place the locals seemed to avoid: the Whispering Woods. Intrigued by the villagers' reluctance to talk about the woods, Sarah decided to explore them one afternoon. As she entered the forest, the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves provided a soothing backdrop. The deeper she went, the more serene and enchanting the woods seemed. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating a dappled effect on the forest floor. Sarah felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. But as dusk approached, the atmosphere began to change. The birds fell silent, and a strange, almost tangible stillness settled over the woods. Sarah noticed the trees seemed to close in around her, their branches twisting into gnarled, grasping fingers. She shrugged off the feeling of unease and started to make her way back to the cottage. Just as she was about to leave the forest, she heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible above the rustle of leaves. Sarah paused, straining to hear. The whisper grew louder, more insistent, as if calling her back into the depths of the woods. She turned around, her curiosity piqued, and followed the sound. The whispers led her to a small clearing, where an ancient moss-covered oak tree stood in the center. The tree's trunk was twisted and gnarled, its roots snaking out across the forest floor like skeletal fingers. As Sarah approached, the whispers became clearer, forming words and phrases that sent shivers down her spine. "Help us. Release us." Sarah's heart pounded as she scanned the clearing, looking for the source of the voices. There was no one there. The whispers seemed to emanate from the tree itself. She reached out and touched the rough bark, and immediately a jolt of icy cold shot through her hand. She recoiled, her mind racing with questions. What was happening? Who were the voices? Unable to shake off the eerie encounter, Sarah returned to the village and sought out the village elder, Mrs. Harris. The old woman was known for her knowledge of local history and folklore. When Sarah mentioned the Whispering Woods, Mrs. Harris's face paled, and she glanced around nervously before speaking in hushed tones. "The Whispering Woods are not to be entered after dark," Mrs. Harris warned. "There are spirits in those woods, the souls of villagers who disappeared long ago. They are trapped there, bound by a curse placed upon the land." Sarah listened, spellbound, as Mrs. Harris recounted the tale of the woods. Centuries ago, a powerful witch had lived in the village. The villagers, fearing her dark powers, had captured and burned her at the stake. With her dying breath, she had cursed the land, vowing that the souls of anyone who entered the woods after dark would be trapped there forever, whispering their torment for eternity. Despite the chilling story, Sarah's curiosity only grew. She couldn't stop thinking about the voices and the feeling of cold that had surged through her when she touched the tree. Determined to uncover the truth, she decided to return to the woods the following night. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of determination, Sarah ventured into the Whispering Woods under the cover of darkness. The forest, which had seemed so enchanting in the daylight, now felt oppressive and sinister. Shadows danced around her, and the air was thick with an unearthly chill. As she approached the clearing, the whispers began again, louder and more frantic than before. "Help us. Release us." Sarah stood before the ancient oak tree, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on its twisted trunk. She reached out and touched the bark once more, and the icy cold shot through her hand again. This time, she didn't pull away. Instead, she closed her eyes and concentrated on the whispers, trying to make sense of the words. Suddenly, a vision filled her mind. She saw the village as it had been centuries ago, bustling with life. The witch, a woman with piercing eyes and flowing dark hair, stood in the center of the square, surrounded by an angry mob. Flames roared as the villagers set her alight, her screams echoing through the night. With her final breath, she cursed the land, and a wave of dark energy spread out from her, enveloping the woods. The vision shifted, and Sarah saw the souls of the villagers trapped in the clearing. They were translucent, their faces etched with despair. They reached out to her, their mouths forming the words she had heard whispered in the woods. "Help us. Release us." Sarah opened her eyes, gasping for breath. She knew what she had to do. The witch's curse had trapped the souls of the villagers, and only by breaking the curse could they be set free. But how? She remembered Mrs. Harris mentioning that the witch had been buried at the edge of the woods, her grave marked by a single black stone. With renewed determination, Sarah set off towards the edge of the woods. The whispers followed her, growing louder and more urgent with each step. She found the black stone, partially hidden beneath a tangle of roots and leaves. Kneeling down, she cleared away the debris and placed her hands on the cold, smooth surface of the stone. A surge of energy flowed through her, and she closed her eyes, focusing on the vision of the witch. She spoke the words that came to her mind, a chant that seemed to rise from the depths of her soul. "By the light of the moon and the power of the earth, I break this curse and set these souls free." The ground trembled beneath her, and a blinding light enveloped the clearing. Sarah felt a wave of energy pass through her, lifting her off her feet and into the air. She hovered for a moment, suspended in the light, before gently floating back down to the ground. When the light faded, the whispers were gone. The woods were silent, save for the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Sarah opened her eyes and saw the spirits of the villagers, their faces now serene and peaceful. They smiled at her, their forms shimmering in the moonlight, before fading away into the night. Exhausted but triumphant, Sarah made her way back to the village. She found Mrs. Harris waiting for her on the doorstep, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "You did it," the old woman whispered. "You set them free." In the days that followed, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace settle over the village. The oppressive atmosphere that had hung over the woods was gone, replaced by a sense of calm and serenity. The villagers, once fearful of the forest, now ventured into it without hesitation, marveling at its beauty and tranquility. Sarah had found the quiet, simple life she had been searching for, but she had also discovered something more: a sense of purpose and a connection to the land and its history. The Whispering Woods were no longer a place of fear and darkness, but a symbol of hope and redemption. And as the seasons changed and the years passed, Sarah would often return to the ancient oak tree in the clearing, sitting beneath its branches and listening to the rustle of leaves. The whispers were gone, but she knew the spirits of the villagers were at peace, their souls finally free from the curse that had bound them for so long. In the end, it was the whispers that had led her to the truth, guiding her on a journey of discovery and transformation. And though the whispers had faded, their memory would stay with her forever, a reminder of the power of courage, compassion, and the enduring spirit of those who came before.